It did something.
We're on.
Says Rick.
We're live, folks. All right, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'll just say there's some people who haven't been here before, haven't been here in a while. So welcome to the class. Whatever your interest is in this class, it's for you. Some people are taking this class as part of a process of conversion. Some people are taking it just to learn more, and that's all fine. If you are interested in conversion, we should be meeting regularly in addition to this class, and extra readings and meetings, and etc. And otherwise too, we could meet and talk about things, questions you have, and things in between. The class, as you can see, is recorded. The recordings end up on the Shul's YouTube channel. If you have trouble finding it, there's a link via the Shul website, or you can ask me, and I'm happy to help you find the Shul's YouTube channel. And if there's a class you can't make, if you want to watch the old classes, I've now gone through this curriculum, I think 3 or 4 times, and I think just about all of the old prior classes are now online. So you could watch me teach this same material 2 or 3 times, okay? If that would interest you, which would be weird, but you could do that. And the other thing I'll just say is, because the classes are offered a few times a month in an ongoing cycle rather than a beginning and an end. So in theory, there's a beginning and an end, but everyone is welcome to join the class whenever you wish and to stay for as long as it's compelling. And if you stay long enough, eventually we'll go all the way around to the beginning again, okay? So last class, we finished our discussion of the positive mitzvah of Shabbat, the command to sanctify Shabbat through Kiddush and Havdalah, the Friday night rituals, the Saturday night rituals when Shabbat ends. We talked about the obligation to prepare for Shabbat by having clean bodies and clean homes. We talked about that Shabbat should be an enjoyable day. It should be light in our homes on Shabbat. We should eat good food on Shabbat. It should be a pleasurable, pleasant day, that we wear nice clothing on Shabbat. I think we got through all of that as well last time. Is that, maybe we didn't do the...
I almost forgot to clean home.
Yeah, okay.
So the last thing was Havdalah.
Yeah.
So we missed, okay, so we saw a few, thanks for, okay, so we saw a few things, a few other things, all right, we're not yet up to, okay, so we're not up to the really hard stuff yet, okay, so a few other things on the positive side of the ledger, the celebration. So we honor Shabbat, in addition to the mitzvah of the positive mitzvah of Shabbat itself, again, which is having 3 meals, saying Kiddush when Shabbat begins, saying Havdalah when Shabbat ends. There's also a mitzvah of honoring Shabbat, which is fulfilled through preparing for Shabbat. We clean our homes, we clean our bodies, we take a shower, a bath before Shabbat. We wear clean clothes, we wear nice clothes, we wear special clothes. I had a friend in high school who had special Shabbos boxers that he always wore. That was like a trend among some of the guys I was friends with. It's wear nice clothes, different clothes, distinctive clothes on Shabbat, and our home should be clean as Shabbat begins. And this was seen as a really important mitzvah. The Talmud says that some of the greatest rabbis would insist on doing the Shabbos preparations themselves. They wouldn't allow anyone else in their household to cook the fish, or because they felt it's the Kavod Shabbos for the sake of honoring Shabbat, and therefore they wanted to do it themselves. So that's called Kavod Shabbat, the honor of Shabbat. I think maybe I told you this story. I once had a meal where every dish that was brought to the table, our host would say, the Kavod Shabbos, this is for the sake of Shabbat. Did I tell you the story? He would say every to say that he was not just, it wasn't just like, eating food for the sake of gluttony, it was for the sake of honoring Shabbat through nice food. If you have nice china, use a nice china. Again, it should be nice. We're here in Lakeview, we're a little bit less formal in general, so, but there are communities where you have to have a white tablecloth. Like that. Anything less than a white tablecloth is seen as like not dignified. It's like I think it's a little ridiculous. You have a beautiful tablecloth that isn't white, but I think the point is well taken. That again should be use your nicest things for Shabbat. And then on Shabbat itself, the day should be pleasant. So that means a number of things. It means that our homes should have light on. I've understood that if you don't have light on in your home, it's not so fun to sit around in the dark and have a meal. You also might trip and hurt yourself if you're walking around in the dark. So we should have light in our homes. And one way, traditionally that was done by lighting candles in our homes, right? And now we have electric lights on. So we still light candles symbolically, ritually, as Shabbat begins. But really, the more significant fulfillment of this aspect of the mitzvah is probably you have a light on in your bathroom, have a light on in the hallway, and so even though we're not turning lights on and off on Shabbat, we're not like igniting fires on Shabbat, we have lights. So the Torah says, "Lo tivar eish b'chomesh v'techam b'yom Shabbat." You shall not burn any fire in any of your homes on Shabbat, which the ancient biblical fundamentalists, literalists, thought meant you can't have any fire lit at all. But with the oral Torah, with the oral tradition, we understand that to mean you can't ignite a fire, but you can have a fire lit before Shabbat. It's actually probably one of the reasons why we light candles when Shabbat begins, to show that we're not biblical literalists. Okay, biblical fundamentalism is a categorically non-Jewish way of approaching Torah, approaching Scripture. We read the Torah through the prism of rabbinic interpretation, through the prism of the oral Torah. And so, even though literally it says you shall have no fires lit in your home on Shabbat, we universally understand that to mean you can't ignite fire, but you should have fire burning in your home when Shabbat begins, so that it's a pleasant day. There are lots of different versions of Judaism in the time of the Second Temple, the turn of the millennium, the prior, 2 millenniums ago. Lots of different versions of Judaism. The one that became ours, the precursor to rabbinic Judaism, was distinguished by a very enjoyable Shabbat as being part of how we're supposed to celebrate, as opposed to some of the other versions where it was a much more ascetic day, where sitting in the dark, eating cold food. Other groups refrain from sex on Shabbat, and the rabbinic vision of Shabbat is a very pleasurable, pleasant day, and that's a way to, it's supposed to be, a joyful, joyous occasion, okay? So we also have warm food, and we'll discuss, it's not so simple to have warm food on Shabbat because we're not allowed to cook on Shabbat, and there are many rabbinic extensions of the prohibition against cooking, but we're still supposed to work around those rabbinic prohibitions and have warm food on Shabbat. Questions on anything I've said so far? Is this surprising to you, or this is more or less what you've seen this, right? I mean, if you've been in shul, you've been to someone's house on Shabbat, it's nice, right? Okay. All right. Good. Okay.
So is it the cognitive aspect that the Chachamim have been coming up with respect to the Hivdalta, the Kiddush, and then the Havdalah at the end, so that you really are cognizant about that there is really a change in
Say more. I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
So the question is this kind of flowing in God's ways, because God in Bereshit has been
very nice. Yeah, Shabbat. Look, God distinguishes time, makes distinctions. Creation is about distinguishing, and we mark time by making boundaries and definitions. I think that's true. I think that's true with not just in time, but also areas of Jewish. We notice things and make distinctions and divisions. I think that's what we do. If you've been reading some of the controversy, the novelist Michael Chabon gave a very controversial lecture a month ago, and there's been a lot of back and forth. So he's sort of against any distinctions, any boundaries, any walls that divide anything from anything else. Michael Chabon, the novelist, and so there've been a lot of responses by saying no, you need to have boundaries and just to be definition requires distinguishing, and that doesn't, you don't have to be exclusive or denigrating about the boundaries that you draw, but making distinctions is an essential part of being human, and so yes. Okay, this wonderful palace in time, this sanctuary in time that is Shabbat. This is made all the positive mitzvah to sanctify Shabbat, to enjoy Shabbat, to prepare for Shabbat, as we've said. All of this is made possible by the prohibitions. I feel like I talked about this. Were you talking about that? Maybe.
You started.
Okay. All this is made possible by the prohibitions. Okay, the prohibitions clear away space that make possible erecting this palace in time, this sanctuary in time. Okay, quality time requires quantity time.
That's the last thing I wrote down.
I said that? Okay, that's good. I don't know if I made that up myself. I may have gotten that from a teacher of mine. I may have also gotten this from Judith Shulevitz, the journalist, who wrote a great book about the history of Shabbat the history of the Sabbath in American thought and American life, which is really interesting. And some also interesting research on...
Is that like Puritan sitting in the darkness?
Did I talk about that? Yeah, so, okay, great. So she writes about how severe and solemn the Sabbath was in early Puritan America. That was one of the distinguishing features of America. People came to America to have a more pure Shabbos experience. I mean, the Christians, but that was what they came here for, and that was characterized New England for generations.
But they lived like that all the time, so they weren't really.
It was much more so. And you can read some of the on Sabbath. It was like a very particularly severe, austere, but sacred, form of sacred time. And she writes how that has sort of broken down in modern America as something's been lost. That that if that only do you need quantity time to have quality time, you also need everyone on the same page doing it at the same time. There's been studies of people who are, this may be up your alley, people who are unemployed are also happier on the weekends and feel like a little depressed on Monday morning, even though they're not working. And it's sort of odd. Why would that be? They don't have a job. They shouldn't make a difference. The answer is on the weekends, all their friends are also not working, and they can hang out. They have people, and then Monday morning, all their friends go off to work, and then they feel sad, right? So it's not. Time is not a undifferentiated, mass of that. It has different time. It's different and has different context, different
Context.
different character, right? It's qualitatively different. So to have some time off from work on Wednesday is different having time off from work on Shabbat, and just because like everyone, the whole community marking time in the same way makes that time just dramatically different than just a person who has a day off, right? To say everyone can pick a day to have off. It's different than like, no, your kids are home from school and your neighbors are not working and everyone's around. So if you've spent Shabbat here in Lakeview, for example, right, it makes a difference to right? Most of the people who come to our shul on a regular basis, they live within a mile or two of that building, and that means, and they're not, and after shul, Shabbat afternoon, they're not going shopping or driving up to visit some friends or going to the movies, and so they're available for one another. So we bring my family to shul Shabbat morning, and we never come home with the same group of children that we arrive with, because one goes off to friends for lunch and he'll be dropped off later, and another we pick up, the other one brings a friend home with them, and the other we go to the park in the afternoon, we meet half a dozen other people and their friends, and that's all possible because like everyone's around, no one's going off to do anything else, and we're all doing the same thing in the afternoon, having lunch and hanging out and resting, and that enables a certain type of community that most Americans haven't experienced in 50 years, in terms of like people knowing their neighbors and knowing the people they live on the street with, and being available, knock on the neighbor's door, sitting on the porch and the neighbor walks by, come stop by for some lemonade, like that. Maybe that was once how Americans lived, really not in a more than a generation, and Shabbat gives that to a community that takes Shabbat seriously. I once, I guess the examples I described are very much like parents of young children examples, but it's true for people without, just being able to go to a friend's house for lunch and no one is in a rush because no one has any place to go, right? And what that means, it's Esther and Harold, they were going to come by. Let's go see what they're up to. Well, they live 3 houses down. Let's go knock on their door and see what's up. Right? You're not gonna have to call them. You don't have to plan. You just let's see what they're up to. See what we can, and that kind of spontaneity, that kind of availability, and community that forms because we're all living close together, observing time in the same way, is an illustration of how the prohibitions push out these boundaries for this time that becomes available to create something really spectacular. Textually,
by the way, so when you say quality of time, really requires the quantity.
Yeah.
So the quantity is the 25 hours that you really
for
have,
example,
so that you kind of ease into the whole thing.
Yes.
If it would be only a 5-minute thing, it would be coming and going in the flat.
Yeah, because everyone wants to have quality time, but it's hard to, you have work and you have your emails coming into your phone and the radio and you have errands to do, and so do you really have time to like sit down with a child or a spouse or or a friend and talk or read a book that's something that's really important to a book that who reads books, right? It's so hard. You read you read on a little screen, like what like in 3-minute increments. Can you actually sit down with a book? You have to actually it's gonna a sustained, developed idea that's gonna develop over a period of dozens of pages, that requires like some uninterrupted time to focus and think and take it. So that's the quality. Like quantity time makes possible quality time. You can't have quality time without really dedicating that quantity time. In the Torah, the description of the construction of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, is interrupted by the command to observe Shabbat. The rabbis understood this to mean that even though God said, build the Mishkan, build this tabernacle, make a holy space to facilitate my dwelling in the Israelite camp, Shabbat takes precedence over constructing the Mishkan. Okay, we stopped building the tabernacle for Shabbat. They further say, that means that all the things that went into building the Mishkan, those are the things we don't do on Shabbat. And actually, and they, from there, I'm sort of oversimplifying, so this is an oversimplification, but okay. They then sorted all of the things that one can't do on Shabbat into 39 categories. So those are called 39 Av Melachot, 39 archetypical categories of labor. Melacha doesn't mean work. I go to work on Shabbat, right? Melacha means creative activity. It's what God did to create the universe. It's not work, it's creativity, okay? Making something, doing something. So we'll define it by what they are. Okay, we're going to go through the list. I think first we'll go through it in not so much detail, then we'll go back in greater detail for a few of the ones that are more relevant and important, okay? So this is the challenging part. It was a better part of a year of my life was spent studying the laws of Shabbat in rabbinical school. And I actually felt I didn't really have quite as much of a handle on it as I wished. Okay, so it's a vast, vast body of Jewish law. This is a 4-volume, really nice English overview. Okay, but it's big. Okay, I'll just say this is a very good book. Actually, the shul has a copy that we can lend out as well. Maybe 2 copies that we can lend out if you'd like to look at this book. It's pretty good. Also, the other really good Shabbat book that I could recommend is these 2-volume book by. I want to say.
I just finished it.
And tell us what.
Good.
All right, see. Great, put that on the back, okay? It was good.
I felt like it had ebbs and flows of like being extremely spiritual and extremely practical, and not a whole lot that I felt like was kind of in the middle. So that I found challenging.
Gotcha.
But all like as a holistic book, I think.
Terrific. The practical is very reliable. It's like simple, clear, not too strict, very straightforward, and quite reliable. I think this is the best English language book of Jewish law on Shabbat that exists right now. There's a tendency in English language books of Jewish law to be extremely strict. Sometimes they're really strict in the, like the main text, and the footnotes, which are sometimes in Hebrew, they give you lenient opinions. I don't know why. That is a trend. He doesn't do that, okay? So that's why I like that. And it's a whole series. He has maybe 10 volumes in Hebrew of various topics in Jewish law, and they're one by one going through in English and publishing them. So
is that a function of the audience of who's buying books?
I guess. I don't understand. I guess it's sort of like you have to be like literate in Hebrew to deserve this leniency. It's like we don't trust you with the truth. You can't handle the truth, but I don't. If you're putting it in the book, I don't get it. I just don't get it. This one has the Hebrew endnotes are very scholarly and discursive, whereas the English is much more straightforward. But it's a decent book. It's a very decent book. It's one more theoretical and abstract rather than practical. So it's not comprehensive and practical, but it really focuses on theoretical definitions of each of the 39 melachot, whereas this is what you have to know to get through Shabbat. Okay. What are the melachot? Okay, I'm cheating because I have this in front of me. We're going to go through it. So the first group is characterized by all the steps leading up to the production of bread. Okay, so they are: first is choresh, which is plowing. Then comes zorea, which is planting, putting seeds, okay? Then comes, maybe go a little bit slower and just explain. So choresh, plowing. Plowing is something you do to dirt to make it conducive for planting things. So that could mean literally plowing. It could also mean if you water barren dirt to make it more mushy and able to like plant something in it. That's preparing the earth for planting. It's not. There's nothing growing. Watering is at this stage. If there's nothing there and there's no seeds there, and you're just watering it to get the break up dry earth, I think that would count as a derivative of plowing because it's making the earth conducive to planting and agriculture. Dragging something heavy across the ground so it makes a groove, that might also be choresh. Zorea is planting, so putting a seed in the ground, okay? He's having a picnic and eating a watermelon and spitting the seed out onto the ground, that's zorea. That would be unintentional but still a forbidden form of zorea, of planting. Anything that encourages growth would also be a derivative of zorea. So watering a plant that's already in the ground would be, or seed that's already, would be zorea as well, would be a derivative of planting. Next is kotzer. Kotzer is harvesting, cutting. So cutting anything off of the place where it grows is a violation of kotzer. So that means picking an apple off a tree, pulling a leaf or branch off a tree, plucking a blade of grass, picking a blueberry that's growing, pulling out a hair from your head is kotzer. It's growing there and you just cut it off from where it's growing. So if you be careful, if you use like a kind of brush that's going to pull out hairs, that would be a problem of kotzer, just like you can't pull out a blade of grass, you can't pull out your hair.
Nails?
What about like
Cutting nails would, yes.
like breaking a split end or like breaking off the top of grass, but not so much pulling it out?
That's also
a different
breaking
thing.
off. No, it's still attached. If something's attached to the ground or attached to your fingernail or your hair, that'd be a problem.
So it has to be attached to something.
Yes.
If it's not, if there is a leaf or a flower and I break that into, it's already cut.
You have like a flower in a vase on a table,
Yes,
and you pull off. That's not kotzer, correct? That's fine.
This
You
is
could,
not okay.
yeah. I mean, you could chop off the top of a broccoli thing on your plate. It's also fine. I mean, you're eating.
Can you
Yeah.
add water to like cut plants that are already?
No, even because they might. Even though they're cut, they're not really
They
going to grow,
might.
but they might. Yeah, they might. They might grow. The flowers might open. So we don't. Yeah. You should not bring flowers on Shabbat to someone. If you're a guest at someone's house, you should not bring them flowers. If you bring them flowers, bring it before Shabbat. They can put it in water before Shabbat. If somebody brings you flowers on Shabbat, you can't put them in water. So that's very awkward.
Flowers in water.
Then that's okay.
like
No one
the
does that. No one does that. Where are you? Where is that? That doesn't happen.
You will be surprised.
Okay.
My mom.
And before Shabbat starts, he normally has flowers.
That's right.
Like an arrangement.
And it comes in arrangement.
Yeah, that's
and
before-
it'll be in a vase.
That's great.
But like that, I feel it's always there before we start dinner anyways. But
Yeah.
I think it is nice if it comes
Yeah,
that way.
that's
I guess
true.
You
You're
can
right.
take that maybe to someone else.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, all wrapped up in the cellophane and everything. Yeah, that's fine.
With
That'd
the
be-
gift.
Yes. It's also nice to send it before Shabbat. It's just if you're at the point where you're ordering flowers for somebody and you're paying $45 for, let them deliver before Shabbat. Yes.
So even though the flowers aren't attached to like the root of the flower,
Yeah, 'cause
they're
there's-
being cut and then you're cutting them again.
Still alive, I guess. Right?
And when you put water in, they're still going to grow. So this is zorea. This is not kotzer, it's zorea. When you put water in, they'll open and they'll grow in that way.
Okay.
Maybe if you move them into the sun and they're going to grow, even when they're cut, they might respond to the sun in some way. They're still alive. So that could be also a problem if that's going to happen.
What about if it's in a vase and you just, instead of the dark room, you take it out in the sunny room?
Yeah, so again, that would be a problem if they're going to respond to the sun, or even opening the shades, in the room where they are. If they're going to respond to the sun, that would be a problem. If not, it wouldn't be a problem. And it is going to respond if that's not the intention, then it probably might be okay as well. Like you're opening the shades because you're going to have lunch. The flowers will do what they, Let's say you have a flower that's growing in a pot. It's certainly going to be a benefit from the sun, but you're still, I think, allowed to open the shades in that room because your intention is not for that, and that might be enough of an ancillary benefit that it might not be a problem. It's a more interesting question. Right? Okay, that was kotzer. Cutting. That's why we don't touch, we don't touch trees or lean on trees on Shabbat. We don't climb trees on Shabbat. You might pull off a branch or break a branch. Next, okay, so you cut your wheat, right? Okay, you plowed, you planted, you cut the wheat. Next is ma'amer, which is heaping the cut wheat into heaps or piles in the field. This is what was done. I don't really know. Is that really, is there any contemporary connotations? See if they look at an example. Ma'amer. It's not really. I mean, I guess if you can't pile up, cut grain in a field.
Like leaves, could you be piling on?
Oh yeah,
leaves?
raking leaves. Raking leaves might be a violation of that. It's a good example.
Funny bone?
Very good. Let's see if they say something. So Kotzer. Long chapter. Okay. Yeah, it's like sometimes it's like nothing on very low. Okay, ma'amer, gathering. After reaping, the cut stalks of produce were gathered and sheaved to be brought later to the threshing grounds. According to some commentaries, the stalks of produce were gathered and tied into bundles. This process was the malacha of ma'amer. Okay. According to many commentaries, that agriculture was necessary for the production of blah, blah, blah. Ma'amer is the collecting or combining of scattered fruits, produce, or any other substance that grows from the ground. During harvesting, the produce must be gathered and brought to the threshing grounds. Even collecting just 2 fruits is the malacha. Consolidating what has already been gathered, for example, compacting a mound of dates into one solid mass is also ma'amer. We used to press dried dates into like round cakes, and that would also be ma'amer.
So how come you can still make a salad on Shabbat?
We'll get there, hold on.
Oh, okay.
So, examples: stringing figs, gathering a bushel of apples near the tree. So you're not picking the apple, that would be kotzer, but they're
Falling down.
so you're going to gather them all together and put, right, that would be ma'amer. Raking leaves to form a pile. Who said that? Someone said raking? Very good. And collecting fruits into one's pockets, right? Again, the fruit's all on the ground, you're going to put them all in your pocket, that's ma'amer. That's taking things that are scattered, produce that's gathered, things that you want to eat, and then you're going to gather it together.
But it's just produce, it's not other
Seems to be, yeah.
Because like all the kids go and
Yeah, it has to be, oh, that's right, very good, yeah, no, it has to be grown from the ground, Some say mineral deposits also. So gathering chips or slabs of limestone or marble in their mining area is also ma'amer. Natural salt, right, comes from the ground. You could collecting chunks of natural salt from shallow, salt marshes would also be ma'amer. Yeah.
What does it mean it's already gathered? So if you bought it on Thursday, you bought all your produce for whatever, and you're at home, and you have there's one strawberry on the left side of the kitchen.
Yeah, here we go. So here we go. It's called ma'amer acher. Can you do it twice? Okay. According to some poskim, some halachic authorities, okay, ma'amer only applies when gathering for the first time. If objects are collected and then become scattered, there's no prohibition of gathering a second time. Okay. For example, if a basket of tomatoes tipped over in the garden, causing its contents to become scattered over a small area, collecting the tomatoes is permitted since they were already gathered once before. If the tomato becomes widely scattered and dispersed, collecting them into a bag or basket would be rabbinically forbidden. But that's only where the second act of gathering does not achieve more than the first one did. For example, in the case of the spilled tomatoes, the second collection was identical to the first. The tomatoes were gathered and put back into the basket in the same way as they were the first time, then that would be okay. However, if the second collection is the improvement over the first, then ma'amer may indeed apply. For example, in the time of the Talmud, dates were packed tightly into small kegs and stored this way until marketing or general use. The packing of these previously gathered dates was a more intense consolidation of the fruit and was actually the last step of the gathering process. Because, I don't know if we do this that often. I don't think I've done this in a very long time, but it's one of the malachot, okay?
So could you theoretically, like if you were like a farmer, could you have a very widespread gather, right? And then like if you wanted to finish, you're not doing worse than you already did.
No, because you're that's like the fig case. You're enhancing that. It's a level. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
What if I...
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Just to back up for a second.
Yeah, of course.
What's the source of the 39 malachot? Is it the Talmud?
It's the Talmud. It's the oral law. None of these. Yeah, and each one of these, later scholars have identified one particular stage in the construction or operation of the Mishkan that each of them correspond to.
Okay.
It seems in early rabbinic history there's just like lists of things that you couldn't do, and then later on the rabbis kind of sorted them into these 39 categories. So that sort of like seems to be how rabbinic literature developed.
So it's in Shabbat. It's in.
Oh yes, it's been second Shabbat discussed. Yeah. The Mishnah actually lists all of them, so it's.
So is this now, say, if I see a couple of apples on the ground, I put one apple in my right pocket of my jacket and the other apple in
I don't know.
the other.
I don't know. Good question. I don't know. I mean, you don't want to eat apples off the ground. It's not so nice. It's not, I don't know.
I mean, not now, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, fair
If
enough.
you're hungry.
Yeah.
Or during the Holocaust.
Yeah, understood. Okay. Next is dash. Dash is threshing. Okay, you know what threshing is? Okay, wheat is on the stalk, and they would basically stomp on it, or have an animal stomp on it, and that kind of manipulation and rubbing and everything would cause the stalks to separate from the grain. That was threshing. Do we do this now? Oh, well, yes, we do. Dash is more abstractly defined as removing any item from the thing in which, the context in which it grew. So a little similar to kotzer. Kotzer, you're cutting something growing. Dash is I'm removing something from where it came from. So the grain from the stalk. Milking a cow would be dash, because you're taking the milk out of the udder.
Like cutting like corn off of a corn stalk? Because it grew on that and you cut it off?
Is that why you have to
Maybe.
make your pomegranate salad ahead of time? Because you're like,
That's something else.
What about like a grape?
What about a
on
grape?
vine?
Like,
And you
take it
peel
off.
off the grape from the vine.
You pluck. Yeah, that's also okay, because that's
That's just your way to eat it.
that's how you eat it. Yeah, but you couldn't if you had like a
Couldn't take
big
off the
batch.
actual-
Yeah, you had like some machine that separated grapes from stalks. You couldn't like operate
Like
it. You know?
coring an apple, maybe?
Coring an
You
apple.
have the seeds, you can-
That's different also. That you're taking the core from the apple, which we'll talk about next. Dash is milking. Let's say,
More production.
I'll give you some. I'll tell you. It's an earlier stage. It's really. I mean, what you're saying is very similar. These are very similar malachot. I'll give you. Also squeezing, of course, squeezing juice from a lemon. That's dash, right? You're
Squeezing the juice from the lemon, you said?
yeah.
Is this the one that also like breast pumps need to be like?
Breast pumps, just like milking a cow, also expressing milk could be a problem with dash. There are ways around that for situations where that's needed, but
With
it's definitely
health,
relevant.
Kind of like
Health
stroke.
and yeah, but it's whose health and the mother's, the baby's, and pain versus health versus maintaining supply. It's I'd say it's a little more
Yeah.
complicated than we can cover right now, but it's really not, yes, exactly.
So like fresh juice from like a lemon, you'd have to like squeeze before having
Correct,
like, a container for it.
exactly.
Or you
Exactly.
can squeeze it like the lemon into sugar. I think that's
Yeah,
also-
squeeze. So if it goes from a solid into a liquid, that's dash. So from a lemon into lemon juice, orange into orange juice, that's dash. But if you squeeze a lemon into your fish and it gets absorbed on your fish, then it's solid, liquid, then it becomes a solid again because it's absorbed in your fish, and then it's fine. So you can squeeze lemons onto things that will absorb them, but not like if you're making salad dressing, it's gonna be a lemon-based salad dressing. Squeeze your lemon before Shabbat.
But not too much.
So
of
salad
it.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, dash. Let's see some. So.
Yeah, what about that? What about like tea or water?
What's
Does the
So
water
if you put
absorb
like
it,
a
or is it
liquid into a
liquid?
liquid,
but it's
oh, like lemon?
then like throw
Like
lemon
lemonade.
into hot water.
No, exactly.
It's a lemonade.
You can put the wedge into the hot water, but to squeeze it into the water, that's liquid, solid into liquid, and stays
Can you
liquid.
cut it though? Can you cut the lemon and put it into
Yes.
the water?
It's just cutting.
Okay.
Yeah. So removing the peas from the pods, peeling the outer hull of a walnut or almond, squeezing grapes for their juice. This is all nepharic, okay? Like taking something which is a derivative of dash. It's not threshing, it's removing something from where it came from.
What about pistachio nuts?
That's okay, we'll get there. I'll explain why.
if you crack like a walnut, is that?
Yeah, it's I'm surprised it's.
I think because you mentioned almonds, that they're not supposed to be removing the outer
The
layer.
outside layer?
Dash only applies to thick peels and shells that are not closely attached to the fruit, such as the thick, pulpy hull that grows over the shell of a walnut. Dash does not apply to the thin peels that adhere closely and directly to the edible fruits. These commentaries explain that the closely attached peels are considered only secondary to the fruit and are thus selectively classified as part of the fruit itself, not merely a non-fruit attachment. Hence, removing the peel is no different than merely cutting part of the fruit itself, which of course is not a melacha. Okay, fine. Peas, any other cases?
So which conundrum did you face on the Shabbat?
I'm sorry, what?
Which conundrum did you face on the Shabbat that you said, oh gosh, am I allowed to do this, am I not? And you were stuck.
Many times. Beating flax, that doesn't really, removing seeds from raw cotton, you don't really do that. Cotton gin, you don't really use one. Squeezing fruits, juices, squeezing a fruit. Okay, I think that's, okay. Oh, yeah. Squeezing a wet cloth, okay, might be, or it could be a different malach, okay? We don't, squeeze a sponge. You don't squeeze a washlappen, a washcloth.
But washlappen is also good.
I grew up calling it a washlappen, and then when I went to grade school, I made reference to a washlappen, and nobody knew what I was talking about.
That's terrible.
Is that a brand?
No, it's a
Washlappen.
washlappen.
I feel like a lot of those things have brand names that have taken like.
Yeah, no, it's I don't think so. So squeezing, so that could be, so you can. Yes, you can wash things. You can wash things with. You can wipe something up with a dry sponge with a handle, right? If you use a snow handle, you're going to dry it, but then you might squeeze a little bit, so that's kind of iffy. If it's a handle, you should remove from squeezing it a little bit. You can use a brush that isn't a sponge, right? So for Shabbat, we have brushes that are just bristles, which scrub and clean dishes, but don't have handles. Baby wipes are very controversial. Some people think you can't use baby wipes for this reason, and they said instead you take a little spray bottle and you spritz on the baby, and then you take a dry cloth and wipe it up. Others say that the baby wipe isn't sufficiently wet such that you're actually squeezing out liquid from the wipe when you use it. And personally, we use baby wipes. We use Pampers baby wipes because they are not, they're packed, separated, so you can take one without having to tear it apart, which we'll get to. It's another one.
Yeah. So they couldn't have the OU signature.
I'm not sure the OU approves them, but yeah, so the whole thing here about, the whole chapter about, using whole chapter about using baby wipes, a chapter about nursing, and I think that's all we'll say about that.
But why would a baby be allowed to suckle from the mom on Shabbat? Because isn't it also extracting milk?
I'm sorry, what?
Why would a baby be allowed to suckle?
Oh, that's a good question. The baby's not obligated in mitzvah. It's actually an interesting essay on this. I can show you. I have it's an interesting discussion actually why the baby's allowed to. Yeah, but the babies don't have mitzvah.
But the mom is making.
Is enabling it. Yeah, look. I mean, obviously, it's we know it's fine. You have to come up with a theory of why it's fine, right? So, yeah.
Maybe it's pikuach nefesh.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, it's okay. I think we're done with Dash for now. There's a lot more to be said.
How common is it for kids to like run and turn on the light and turn off the light and do stuff like that in Shabbat? Like,
I'm sorry, say it again.
Will your toddler
Yeah.
start violating Shabbat and desecrating the Shabbat in like various ways? Is that something common in a household? With
Yeah, I mean, you train them not. I mean, as soon as they're old enough, you train them not to, because you also don't want to ruin it for everyone else. So you train them not to, and you teach them not to, and you take things and put things away. So, but they're fundamentally not obligated in mitzvah, so it's not like a,
So in Geneva, in Switzerland, I knew somebody who had their youngest kids just turning on and off Shabbat lights at the age of 3 and 4. But then what happens at the age of 12 or 13?
Okay. The next, after they would thresh the grain, what's happening?
9:30.
All right. Wrap up soon. We'll do one more. After threshing, they would winnow, which was a further step in separating the grain from the stalk and the chaff and whatever. They would take big winnowing forks, they would throw the grain to the air, and the wind would blow the lighter stalks and chaff away, and the grains only would be down. They would do this a bunch of times in the wind, and it would blow away. So it's really the same as dash, but using the wind. That's really basically it. It's pretty much the same.
What is the name in Hebrew for
Zoreh, winning.
So if you're on like the beach, you can't like play with the sand kind of thing, or is that not?
I guess I mean, only if you're doing it for the purpose of
But
extracting what you want and removing what you don't want,
But
right?
that's why you can't do the pomegranates. Or
We get there.
Right.
It's really Boreh, which is the next
I
one.
just really love pomegranates. I want to know why.
That's Boreh. We'll get there. Okay, so certain types of sprayers, air sprays, aerosol spray cans. Oh my gosh, is that Zoreh? No, you're not. It's not. It's the air pressure that comes out. One should not pour a stream of water from a second-story window on a windy day for the purpose of causing the water to become blown into a mist. Who does that? One should not shake out a tablecloth against the wind, thereby causing the crumbs to become dispersed by the force of the wind.
Could that become?
That's Zorah. The wind is pushing away your garbage. One must not throw crumbs to the wind on Shabbat. For example, for dispersing chametz on Shabbat that falls on the Erev Pesach. One should not throw loose tobacco on Yom Tov at the wind, thereby causing it to scatter.
Wait, but
One may
you're
not
not supposed to smoke.
No.
On Yom Tov.
Oh, Yom Tov.
One may not scatter confetti in the wind. Okay.
I feel like in Chicago, this gotta be tough. This would be tough.
Very windy, I know,
So
right?
windy.
Yeah.
Like a random thing potentially happen.
And then they would say, so these are some.
Confetti is kind of
Yeah.
bonbons in wraps.
Yeah, it goes. Psh, yeah.
But there's bonbons inside. Oh, no.
Oh.
What is confetti?
No, confetti like
It's
ticker
like
tape,
shredded
you know.
paper that's
It's like when there's
usually
a
colorful.
celebration.
Yeah, happy. Yeah. Shaking dust out of an old dusty blanket on a windy day outdoors, blowing dust off an old bookshelf or dusty bottle, right? Blowing excess confectionery sugar from a donut or cookie, shaking out a container of powder outdoors on a windy day, shooting a toy squirt gun in the wind so as to scatter the water into a mist. Okay, so it's all about using wind or air pressure to scatter or disperse when the thing that you're scattering or dispersing is not what you want, right? That is Zoreh.
So blowing a book, like even if you're inside, if you're blowing dust off of something.
Seems like it. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be to your right, it's not to your right, right? Laying out musty items to expose them to the wind. We're not having musty garments or blankets on a line to air out and freshen up in the wind. It's not a true act of Zorah. No substance is being scattered or separated. It's nevertheless forbidden because it's considered a weekday occupation is done in a manner similar to that which...
So you're using the wind as like...
Using the wind as a...
your advantage.
Yeah.
Oh, so like this is the thing, you can hang up clothes on the laundry line before, but not.
Yeah.
So if your clothes get soaking wet in the rain, you're not supposed to like hang them up.
You have to take a little step to do. I mean, you have to do something with them, but you shouldn't put them on a line to dry them. Yeah. Okay.
Because you can't read it out.
Yeah, if we do one, the next is Boreh. Boreh is a long one, so maybe we'll stop now. And next is Boreh. We're making progress. Okay. It's a little slow. I thought we would just go through them really quickly, but I guess we're going a little bit slower, which probably makes sense. So let's pause here though. When are we going to meet next? Can we meet again before I go away? Let's see.
When do you go away?
4 weeks. Okay. 3 weeks. Today is the 26th. Next week, I can't do Monday. I can't do Tuesday. Are you Sarah's teaching or she finished?
She finished.
So we could do
I think she
Tuesday.
finished.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, she finished.
So we could do Tuesday, July 3rd.
But not here.
No one's here. Oh, because it's no.
This is the 4th of July.
People are gone, so let's not do that. Fine. No one's around. Okay, let's skip that week actually then. So Monday, I can do Monday, July 9th. No, I can't do that Monday, July 9th. I can do, I have a meeting already on Tuesday the 10th. Hey, Wednesday, I think I can do Wednesday the 11th. Nope, I can't. I have dinner already. booked. Sorry. Okay, the week after that, the 15th. Oh. Hold on. Looks like I can do them. July 9th works? Monday, July 9th work for people?
No.
No, never mind. Okay. 16th, 17th. Tuesday the 17th. Does that work?
Works for me.
Tuesday, July 17th.
What time?
Let's do again let's do late again, if that's okay. Let's do 8,
Can we do Wednesday?
it was Wednesday better? Wednesday the 18th? Wednesday 18th is fine for me. Wednesday, July 18th?
I have a problem on Wednesday actually. Okay.
Wednesday, July 18th. Okay?
Either works for me.
We'll do Wednesday
18?
At 8:45.
at 8:45.
Here or?
Here, I'm sorry, that's okay.
It's very intimate.
Very intimate.
July 18th.
Yeah.
Alright.
Okay. I'll see you before then. But, all right. Thank you for coming.